Hi everyone, it's Ginell Cooper. I'm here today to teach you how to Fair Isle Crochet, which is a really cool technique that I'm sure you've seen all over the place. And for those of you who are fairly new, it might actually be kind of scary. It's a very simple technique, but it looks intimidating. So I'm going to take away all of the intimidation so it's something that you'll see how fun it is and how easy it is to do. There are a few little pitfalls along the way. I actually years ago tried to do tapestry crochet, which is very similar. And I was making a pillow cover for my son with one of his favorite video game characters on it. If I find the picture, I'll show it to you. But when I was doing it, it kept going the wrong direction. It wasn't very clean. So I've learned some things on how to do it very cleanly, how to keep it from bunching in the middle, just a lot of different little tips and techniques that I'm going to share with you. I have found it completely addicting. So I started with this bag with the snowflakes. Literally, I just made this up as I went. Like I found a little graph of a snowflake. I made these up as I went along, added the snowflakes, added that. If I can do that, if I can just kind of do it on the fly like that, you can do it too, I promise. This is the one that I'm gonna do on camera today with all the little trees on there. I'm gonna give you all the tools to not only make this, but you can also make this. You can make this, and you can even make it up as you go. Like I'm even going to show you how to use a particular app so you can make your own graphs, or you can how to find graphs on Pinterest and other places online and use those graphs just incorporate it into your design. It's so fun. Seriously, I just finished the third one and I'm ready to start on the fourth one. So cute. Anyway, so come along and enjoy the journey with me. You're gonna learn a whole new skill. It's gonna be so fun. And if we do it quick enough, you'll be able to use them for holiday gifts. But if not, if you're seeing this video and it's not Christmas time, you can put different graphs in there and make them for birthdays or Valentine's Day, or like any kind of holiday you wanna give gifts for. This is great. I think that dressing up the outside of the package is just as important as what's inside the package. And I am a big believer in homemade gifts. So I think it just makes it a little bit more special. So let's get going.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the plan here. So we're gonna start with the circle on the bottom. This is just gonna be a regular single crochet going around in circles, and we're just going to increase until we get to the number of stitches that we want around the outside. I've already done a little bit of math, so I'll show you how I came to that. Then I want to tell you a little bit about the yarn. I'm just using, for the most part, just Red Heart Super Saver yarn. I don't know if you remember, but I think it was February of last year. I bought a ton of this because it was on sale for this huge thing with 64 cents at Walmart. And so I bought way more than I needed. So I have a ton of red and a ton of white and some other colors too. So I'm gonna use some of this white, but also the green is also Super Saver. This is also Super Saver. This is just a sock yarn that I fell in love with in Tennessee when I was there, and I grabbed it and I used it in this, but it's so tiny that really I added 2 of these to one strand of regular Red Heart, and it didn't even, I mean, as you can tell, it makes it puff out a little bit, but it really didn't even change the size at all. So, and I'm only doing it to just add a little bit of holiday sparkle into it because I just love the colors on there. And I'm just gonna add that into the blue, I think, a little bit. So that's the yarn I'm using. You can use I'm just using acrylic yarn. You can do Fair Isle Crochet in a way that is drapey and pretty. And to do that, you use smaller yarn and a bigger hook, right? That's not our goal here. The goal here is to make this kind of stand up on its own, almost like a basket. So we don't want it to be as thick as a basket, but we do want it to be strong enough to kind of stand up on its own, right? So that's why we're doing that. It's gonna be kind of tighter, and it's going to be stiffer that way. So it doesn't matter if you use scratchy yarn or soft yarn or whatever, because it's not something somebody's gonna wear. It's going to be a gift bag. But you can use the same technique to do like hats and anything really. The gloves, those little fingerless gloves, have some really cute techniques in there. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna start with the circle on the bottom. let me just explain how this is gonna work. So this is the pattern that I decided, and I am going to link for you guys, if you have a Pinterest account, I'm just gonna link in the description a link to my Pinterest account that has all of my graphs that I've been saving on there, because there's so many to choose from. And once you kind of figure out how to do the math on this, you can really make your design anything. And I do my design, I kind of think of it as in stripes. So like this is a section, this is a section, that's a section, you know, so you can actually, you don't even have to be super planned out about it, as long as you kind of understand how the math works in it. But I just did this before I even knew I was doing this. I just did that, then I did that, and then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna make it symmetrical, and I did that, right? So you could do the same thing. But for, you know, video purposes, I did plan it out a little bit. So here's our little tree that we're gonna make, and we're gonna do that same little checkerboard on the bottom. This is super, super easy. So by the time we get done with this little 3 rows, or I guess it's 6 rows of checkerboard down here, you're gonna be like, okay, I'm ready, give me more, because that's like, it's very, very easy. So this counts out to be 8 stitches across. Notice that it's off center. That's because you're going to have a little row in between of just white. And then when you start over, we're just repeating this, right? So when you start over here, there will be a row of white right there. So if you had a row of white on both sides, then it would end up being double spaced, and then the trees are kind of far apart. So that's why I did it this way, just so that you understand. And then this is 8, that comes out to be 8 as well. You just wanna make sure that whatever's going on over here, when this repeats over here, it's gonna pick up and continue the same pattern. You're not gonna have like a gap there, or 2 of these next to each other or whatever, right? Unless you plan it that way. So the math on this is 8 stitches across. You want this part on the base to turn out to be a multiple of 8, right? So, or that's something you can divide 8 into. So what I did was I took, okay, so this is 8 stitches across. So if we did 6 of them, it would be 48 stitches total around. This one is 66, and this is my smaller bag. So really, if I was not doing this for a video, I would probably go more for the 72. The great thing about 72 is that so many numbers divide into it. Like you could do 8, 9, 3, 4, like there's so many numbers, 12, that go into that. So you have a lot of choices as far as like what you can put on your graph. But for video purposes, so this video isn't like 4 hours long, I'm gonna do the smaller bag on there. And so in order for there to be, it's 8 by 6, right? We're gonna start off with 6 stitches in the middle, and we're just going to add 6 stitches for each row as you increase out. I'll show you how to do that. But so if you just count it out, that's 8 rows, right? So 8 times 6 obviously is 48, divided by 8 is 6, right? Or divided by 6 is 8. 8 times 9 is 72. You divide that by 6 and it is 12 rows. So if you want to do the larger bag, then do that, and that'll give you 9 trees, where this is only going to give you 6 trees. The reason I skipped from 6 to 9 is that all those numbers in between, 7 and 8, don't come out to a number that is divisible by 6, but you could just fudge it a little bit. You could add a stitch or remove a stitch, whatever you needed to do, like right at that base part, and no one's gonna know. But I just wanted to make this like easy to understand. So, so don't be afraid to like just go for it and just figure it out as you go. And like I said, I'm gonna have all those little graphs from Pinterest. It'll be linked in the description, so you can get lots of ideas, but I'm sure you can find tons of them on the internet. It's super addictive. You can't stop once you get started. So let's go ahead and get started on the circle. I'm gonna use an H hook. You do wanna have like some kind of stitch marker too, just so you know like what row or where your row ends. Is there anything else in here I need? Oh, probably this. We're gonna go ahead and start off with a magic ring, and we're gonna put 6 stitches in that ring. We're going to wrap around, come through here and pull up a loop, right? Then don't pull it tight. You're going to just slip stitch to hold that loop in place, okay? Okay, so this is your ring. Around the ring, we're gonna put 6 single crochets in there. You can actually pull that, there you go. So just like as if this was an edge of something, you're gonna do 6 single crochets around this. So just 1, oops, 2, 3, 6. Okay, now what you're gonna do, this is the magic part, then you're gonna take this and you're just gonna pull that so it's nice and tight. And then you're gonna come over to the first stitch, make sure it's still 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you're not gonna slip stitch into it. We're just gonna go around in a spiral so that you don't have a seam on the bottom, and that's what's gonna make this like perfect little circle with no seam going up the side. So we're just gonna go right into that first single crochet, leave that tail for now. Go into the first single crochet that you started with and go ahead and do a single crochet on top of that. So this is the first stitch of the second row. Once you've done that, mark it with a stitch marker so you know where the beginning of each row is. Okay, so now you're gonna do another single crochet in that same stitch. 2 single crochets in each stitch, and that's gonna increase from a row of 6 stitches to a row of 12 stitches. So just do that all the way around. You can do the waistcoat stitch on this circle if you want to. I just like the way it looks when it's a regular single crochet. Plus it's faster. Okay, so when you come to the bottom of that, or the end of that row, you should have 12 stitches. So counting the one that the stitch marker's in, even though it's a little bit lower, so it looks like it's not an actual stitch, it is. So you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So now we're gonna start the third row. Each time you do a row, you're gonna increase by 6 stitches. So 6, 12, 18, 24, all the way out, right? And the way you're gonna do that, so you take out your stitch marker to get started. Okay, so you have 12 stitches. Hold on to this little tail so you don't accidentally use that. I do that all the time. And then you're going to, in this first one, you're gonna do 2 stitches in that. This is the beginning of the third row. Okay, put your stitch marker in the first one. And then you're gonna do 1 single crochet in the next stitch. And then 2 in the next one. And then 1 in this one. And just keep doing that all the way around. You should have 18 stitches when you get back to the stitch marker. So we got to the 18 stitches. Now the next row, you're going to increase on the first one and then do 2 in the first one and then single, single. 2 in the next one, single, single. 2 in the next one, single, single. On the next row after that, it'll be 2 in the first one and then single, single, single. And then 2 in the first one, single, single, single. So it just kind of continues doing that. It's kind of the law of a circle. And then that way you're only increasing by 6 stitches for every row. And it ends up kind of looking like, it kind of is this cool swirly. You can see where the increases are on it. It makes this cool kind of swirly effect on there, but that's how a circle should look. Nice and clean like that. So, so continue doing that until you get to the width that you want. For mine, I'm gonna do a smaller bag just so that the video is more concise. But you can do a bigger one if you want to and just keep going out to 72 inches on the outside, which would be 12 rows. I'm gonna just go out to 48 inches, which is only 8 rows. So I'll see you when we get to the end of that. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of point out one cool little thing too. If you're having a hard time keeping track of, you know, when you start getting to the point where you're like 2 stitches in one and then you got like 5 or 4 and then you're like, oh, where, you know, when did I do the 2 stitches or whatever? One great way to know when to do it is that you're gonna be doing your increase on the first stitch of the increase below it. So here's the increase below it, and the loop that came to it first, that's the beginning of that stitch, that's where your increase is gonna be. So if you look down here, this is the increase on this row, and we did the increase for the row above it right before it. So right there. So hopefully that kind of helps. That's what I always look for when I, you know, especially when you're making circles that are like huge, sometimes it's hard to keep track of the numbers, and I'm personally not a stitch counter. I hate having to count stitches, so I kind of look for those little clues to make it easier for me to see what I'm doing. So like right here, this is the increase on the row before it, and then that's the single crochet right there. So we're gonna do the increase in this little loop right at the beginning of the first stitch in this increase. We're gonna do our increase right here, and then the rest of them we're just gonna do regular single crochets. Okay, so there's the increase, and then the rest is gonna be single crochet, single crochet. And then when we get up here to the next row, this is the increase from the row before. You're gonna do the increase right before it, so 2 single crochets, and then the next increase is over here. Right? So there's the increase, single crochet, and the next increase. So you know you're gonna single crochet all the way until you get to here. This is where you're gonna do your next increase. So single crochet, you should probably put your stitch marker in before you forget where you were. Single, single. So here's the increase right here, these 2. So you're gonna do your next increase in the top of this one. That's just like a little shortcut for, you know, those of us who don't like to have to count every single row. That's just kind of my hack, I guess, if you will. So like I'll start talking and I'll forget what stitch I'm on, but I can always go, oh, there's the increase, so it's gonna go right there. Just like that. Okay. Hopefully that helped to understand. So now I will see you at the end of how wide you want your circle. We'll meet you there. Okay, my goal has been reached. I am at 48 stitches. So this is about wide enough for like a wine bottle, basically. So this will be like maybe a wine bottle gift bag. But so before we go any further, I'm gonna show you how to sew in your ends on here, because I see on all the different crocheting groups that I'm on Facebook, I see a lot of people complain about magic circles and they're like really worried that they're gonna come apart. I've never had that happen. So I'm gonna show you how I do my ends on a magic circle so that that doesn't happen. So the first thing I do, I don't do a knot. You can do a knot if it makes you feel more comfortable. I just don't like having a solid thing there for the touch. I like to kind of leave it as knot free as I can. So I just work my way through this first round of 6 stitches, just right into here. Pull it tight. Just go all the way through those 6 stitches, just like you would if you were regularly weaving in your ends. Okay, then grab a piece of yarn that is not the one that you just went through, and then you're going to go back the way you came, right back through those 6 stitches. Hopefully a little bit more gracefully than I just did it. Okay, now that should be fine because it has the back and forth, but for a little bit of added extra security, go up a level, up a row and then go through a few stitches on this row. Four or five. Don't pull it too tight because then you'll start to lose your circle look there. You don't want to like make that go away. Grab a piece of yarn that is not the stitch that you just came through and then go back the way you came through those stitches. The back and forth keeps it from coming apart. Believe me, I've had to actually undo stuff after I've woven in my ends like this, and it's nearly impossible for that to go apart. I've like had to work really hard to get that to come undone. So, so yeah, that's very safe, just like that. Okay, so moving on. This is the beginning of the next stitch. So now that we've made our circle as wide as we want it, and you may have chosen to go out further, I am going to do one row of just regular single crochet, just singles, no increase or anything. And what that'll do is it'll start it to kind of roll up. I'm still doing regular single crochet. I haven't switched to the other stitch that we're going to use yet, the waistcoat crochet, the waistcoat stitch. We're going to call it, it's called three different things. You can either call it a waistcoat stitch, or you can call it a split single crochet, or you can call it a knit stitch. I'm gonna call it a knit stitch on this video because that's the easiest thing to say. There's a lot of S's in the other ones and I'm just gonna fumble all over it. So, but it's any of those counts. So I just did the first stitch. I'm gonna mark it so I know that's the beginning. And we're just gonna go around in a circle, single crochet all the way around. No increases. And this will kind of, you won't see it for a while. You won't see it for like maybe 4 or 5 rows, but it'll start to go upward like it's the side of the basket or the side of the bag. Okay, I've gone all the way around, just single crochets all the way around. So now we're gonna start on the knit stitch. And you are going to, instead of going into this space that you would normally go into, right? Usually go right underneath that V for your single crochet. We're actually gonna find the stitch that goes in and we're gonna go right through the middle of it. So see that V right there? You're gonna go right smack through the middle. Like that. So it creates this, almost looks like you are knitting basically. It's also called a split single crochet because you're going right through the middle of the single crochet instead of the stitch before it or the yarn before it. And you're going to do that all the way around. So here's the trick to a knit stitch in order to keep it from getting too tight, because it will, just the way it is, it gets really tight. So when you go through there, you want to actually pull this row up a little bit to just kind of keep it loose so that the next time you come around, you're not like trying to dig in there with your crochet hook. You'll know what I mean when you get to the first time you go around and you're like, oh God, I can't get in there. Hopefully you will remember this tip. Just pull it up. It keeps it nice and loose. Don't worry, it's still going to be tight enough that the walls are nice and stiff. You know what I did? I didn't put my hook back in. There it is. You can kind of easily see. There you go. Stitch mark so you know where your row ends. Okay, so I know that looks super easy, and it is super easy, but that's because this is the first row. If they get really tight, it does get harder. So keep it nice and loose. Go all the way around. I'll see you at the end. Last one on this row. Go right through the middle there. See, that one's already kind of tight. Pull it up, go through it. Okay, so usually you can kind of see how it's already starting to kind of scoop up a little bit, but see there, you can tell the difference between this is the regular single crochet and then this is what it looks like when you start doing the knit stitch on there. So what I do on mine typically is that I usually do 2 rows of knit stitch before I start on the actual pattern or the graph part of it. So, and it looks like 3 rows because that first row of regular single crochets you did, when you do the knit stitch into it, it almost makes it look like that made that into a knit stitch. So it looks like 3 rows, but it's actually 2 that I did. So we're gonna go ahead and do another row of knit stitch before we start on the color change part. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you at the end. And just keep doing the thing where you take out your stitch marker, you start the next one, pull it up nice and high, because you'll start to feel it now. They're gonna feel tighter. Put your stitch marker back in to the beginning of that. This is going to be huge when you're actually doing the graph, because you want to make sure that the numbers all work out right. Once you get going on the graph, you don't really need the stitch marker as much anymore, because it kind of becomes very apparent when you come to the end of a row, but I kind of like having it there. It just kind of gives me an idea of how far I need to go to get to the end of that row. So I will see you at the end of this one, and then it's going to get fun. Okay, so I finished those 2 rows. See how it looks like it's 3, but it's actually 2. So now what we're gonna do is gonna get fun. I mean, it's been fun, right? But it's gonna get even more fun. So a couple of things that I wanna explain to you why I'm doing this the way I am. The reason why we're choosing to do the waistcoat stitch or the knit stitch on here is because it keeps it stacked up nice and straight. So years and years ago, I tried to do what's essentially is Fair Isle Crochet, but it's actually called tapestry crochet. And I did these pillow covers for my son for, I think it was like his 12th birthday. If I can find a picture, I will post it right here so you can see it. I was super, super frustrated about it because no matter what I did, the shapes didn't look nice and clean. They kind of jogged to the left or they jogged to the right or whatever. So if we were doing just regular single crochets and not this waistcoat stitch, the whole pattern would kind of look like this. It would sort of shift to the left, or if you're left-handed, it would kind of shift to the right, and it wouldn't look right. The other thing too is when you do Fair Isle Crochet in the round, it's super easy because you just continue on top of it. You just keep going and going. If you were going to do it on a flat piece like a pillow, you would actually, just like we did my last video, we did interlock crochet, we did the Tunisian interlock. And you actually start at one side, you go to the other side, and then you end it, and then you start again at this side instead of going back and forth like you would in traditional crochet. So on Fair Isle Crochet, it's the same way. So if you're gonna do something flat like a pillow, you would start on one side, work your way over. When you get to that side, you end, and then you start again over here. So you have all these like pieces on the ends that need to be woven in, or if you're doing a pillow, they don't need to be woven in, they can just be sewn in, I guess, right? The reason for that is because when you go back and forth, your crochet jogs this way and then it jogs that way and then it jogs this way and it jogs that way, and it kind of makes for a messy look. So if you want it to be nice and clean, you have to have your stitches stacked on top of each other like this so that it's straight up and down, and also not do the back and forth. You want to just keep going in the same direction. So that being said, that's why we're using this particular stitch for this. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to start on this first row down here, and the very first one is the new color. I added that other little sparkly yarn in there. Don't let it freak you out. Just pretend like this is one piece of yarn. So you don't have to be sparkly if you don't want to, but that is, or if you have something fun. I wouldn't do, like if you're gonna do faux fur or something, that would be super cute, but I wouldn't do it on your first one because it might be kind of hard to see the stitches. So once you get the hang of it, then yes, definitely. So when you go to start the first stitch, you actually are going to end the last stitch with the new color, right? So you're going to go ahead and pull in your new color and pull it up through there. It still looks nice and clean. You still have white all the way across, right? And then we're going to do the next stitch in the new color. There's a couple of different ways that you want to carry the yarn in the back. We're going to keep this yarn going the whole time. We're not going to cut it every time we do a new color or whatever. That would be really, that would be ridiculous. So many things, so many ends to weave in. So we're just gonna keep carrying this with us. But there's a couple different ways you can do that. You can, if you're doing something that's drapey, that you need to be nice and soft, like a sweater or something that you're gonna wear, you want to carry it on the outside. You don't wanna like try to bury it under here. You wanna just kind of have it loose in the back, right? And that has its own issues. Well, I'm gonna do it both ways so you can see it both ways. If you carry it in the back and you don't like bury it on top, you just wanna make sure that it stays nice and loose, because if you start to pull it, like for instance, let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do one stitch in the green, and then we're gonna switch over to the white, because it's every other. So it's gonna go, or sorry, that's green, but blue, white, blue, white, blue, white. This is this row that we're working on right here, right? So every single time you're gonna switch. And you wanna kind of keep your yarns separate from each other so they don't get twisted around each other. So the next one we're gonna do is white. You could just go over the top of this green with the white, or you can let it lay in the back, like don't even touch it, just let it lay down there. And then pick it back up. And when you pick it back up, you want to pick it up so that they don't get tangled. So whatever direction that is, under or over. And then pull it through, right? So you can see how each stitch is nice and clean. Leave the white hanging. Go over and go into the next stitch with the green. Pull it up. Bring the white back. Just like that. And we're just gonna do a checkerboard all the way around. What that looks like in the back is this. So that's actually pretty clean, but when you're doing carries where you're dropping them and not like hiding them, they can be kind of long, and they actually, our tendency will be to pull it tight, and then what that does is, you can kind of see it in this because I did it in this one, it kind of sucks this in so it's not like nice and loose and straight. It's something that you kind of just have to get used to keeping it loose. There's another technique though, and I'm gonna show you when we get up to the tree how I'm gonna do it. These ones are so, like, they're just singles, so it doesn't really matter which way you do it. But when you get up to the tree and you have those poles that are all the way across, I'm gonna show you how to do it to hide it in there, and then you don't have to worry about that happening as much. So right now we'll just keep doing this. You don't have to hide this in there, just let it fall. Pull up the piece, grab this color, make sure they don't get twisted, so you want to grab this underneath, and then wrap it and pull it through to start the next one. Start the next stitch, pull in the white, and pull it through. And you just go back and forth until you get to the end of the row. This is like the perfect stitch for the perfect graph, I guess, for a beginner, because it gives you the practice of switching back and forth to the point where it's not a big deal. Oops, I picked the wrong one. Just make sure that whatever one you have on here is the one that's going in here. Like that, pull it up, pull the green in, go through. Green, white, go through. Just make sure you're keeping this nice and loose in the back. You're not like pulling this tight, because if you do that, that's when it starts to kind of cinch up with each other. It doesn't happen as much when you're working with singles like this. It's just like if you're doing a green and then you're doing white, 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 green, and you carry it all the way over, you just let it fall, and then it's just like this loop in the back. You've probably seen that like inside, when you look inside a sweater that has that Fair Isle Crochet, it has that carry going on in the back. It actually looks kind of cool. But if you do that and you pull it too tight, it'll cinch it up. So, oops, wrong one again. Pull it up. Pull it through. And I know it seems like I don't have much of a rhythm because I'm trying to teach and do it at the same time. But once you get going, it actually goes pretty fast. Here, I'll pick up the pace a little bit because you'll get used to how you hold it. Okay, so hopefully that gave you enough to watch. Meet me when we get to the end of the first row, which I didn't mark, but like I said, you probably don't need to mark it. Now that you've started the graph, it'll be easy to keep track. But I'll put it there just to be a good example. Okay, so keep going. I'll see you at the end of this round. Okay, so this is when you find out if your math worked out, right? So luckily this first part, you just wanna make sure that it's even number going around. So the blue ends here, the white goes into here, and then we're gonna switch back to the blue. And then we're gonna do one more round and you're just gonna stack them right on top of each other. The same colors. And then we'll switch and make it a checkerboard on the next round after this one. So go ahead and go through that one. Just keep on going. Just like that. Mark your first one so you know that that's your first one, although you can't really miss it once you get over there. Okay, and then just keep going right through the middle. The thing about Fair Isle Crochet and also tapestry and mosaic, I haven't done mosaic yet, but it looks like it's a little bit similar to this, is that once it looks really complicated, but once you've got the pattern figured out, you don't even really look back at your pattern very often, because I know I'm doing a checkerboard or stripes all the way around. It won't be until I get to the tree, and then even once I do get to the tree, you'll see the pattern in that too, and then you won't even really have to look back at your chart very often. Meet me at the end of this row and then we're gonna switch it up. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row. And normally we would switch over to the green, right? But instead, because we're gonna checkerboard this at the top, so we did 2 rows of that, and now we're gonna switch it and we're gonna do 2 rows of this. So now we're just gonna keep on with the white, finish it with the white, and then we're gonna take out our little stitch marker and we're gonna start with the white on this side. And it's gonna feel weird and it's gonna look weird at first, but I promise it will all work out and look good. So then you just switch and do the exact opposite on this side or on this row as you did on the last row. Doesn't that look cool? And that's what the inside looks like. with those carries on there. And these are, I mean, they're not really carries when they're when you're only going one stitch. Like it's more of a carry when you're doing like 3 or 4 stitches across there, but that's what it looks like. So it still has kind of a cool pattern to it. And it's not messy like it would normally be when you're doing carries, but it's not gonna matter because it's inside the bag, right? So, and if you're doing it flat, you're probably gonna do it as a pillow cover or something, and nobody's gonna see the back, so it doesn't really matter. So continue all the way around. Go ahead and do 2 rows of this, and then I'll stop and I'll switch you back to the first one, and we'll do 2 rows of that, and then we're gonna move on to our trees. Okay, so this row's complete, and we're gonna switch back. So instead of ending this with the white, we're gonna end it with the green. And then we're gonna start green right here and end with white. Do opposite. Oops. Okay, so go ahead and continue doing that until you've completed 2 rows of this, and we're ready to end and go back to just plain white. We're gonna do plain white for 1 row before we switch to our tree. So in fact, why don't we go ahead and do this next row, you're on this row right now, do the next row, and then do 1 pure row of white. So just when that happens, you can actually leave your green, just let the tail hang and cut it, because we're not going to use it again until we get up here. So we don't want to carry it that whole way. We just want to use it when we're using it and then let it go, right? So, and you don't have to worry about, we'll weave in the ends later. Don't worry about that. Just cut it, give yourself a little bit of a tail, cut it, and let it hang. So go ahead and continue on until we get to that part, and then I will meet you there. So we're doing these last 2 rows and then the 1 row of just pure white, and then I'll meet you at the beginning of the next row. Okay, here we go. So I have finished the 1 row of just plain white all the way around, and you can see that there's a little bit of a jog when you go from 1 row to the next. There's that little jog right there. Really the only time it's ever noticeable is when you're doing 1-to-1 changes, but once we start doing the tree changes, you're not even gonna notice it, and this is gonna just fall into the background and no one will see it. So, and it's starting to look like an actual basket or bag now, so that's good. We got the sides going up right. So now we're gonna switch to our tree. So what I did with the blue is I just cut it and let it hang. I'm not even gonna worry about the ends or anything until the end when we finish. So we'll do that later. So what you're gonna do now is you're just gonna count how many before you change to green. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th one is green, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. So it'll basically, when you're doing it, it'll be for this first row, after you get to this green, it'll be 7 and green, 7 and green. Hopefully that makes sense. That's the 3, the 4 plus the 3, right? Because you're just repeating this over here. Pretend like we took this, carbon copied it, and put it over here. So that's what we're gonna follow. So we're gonna do the first one, which is just gonna be 4 white. Okay, when you get to the end of the 4th one, you're not gonna finish it. You're gonna pull in the green yarn. And I'm gonna show you 2 ways to do this and why you would wanna do it this either way. So the first one, we're gonna do our first stitch in the green, right? You're only doing 1, right? Just that stem. So now we're gonna take the white and we're going to end that stitch and then continue on. But now you're gonna go 7 stitches before you do the next white. And if you want to, you can mark this. It'll become very clear later, but just for fun, just mark it just so you don't get lost. So Now we're going to do 7 stitches, and we're going to carry this green for 7 stitches. And there's 2 different ways to do it. The first way is to just plain carry it, let it drop. You never want to carry it more than like 3 stitches without at least connecting it. So we're going to do 3, and then on the 4th stitch, which is like, is that right? Yeah, so because 7 is 3 and then 1 in the middle and then 3. So we're just going to kind of pick it up. We're not going to actually pull it through. We're just going to go over the top of it to just, so it just kind of holds it up like that, and then continue on to do the other ones. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then this is the 7th one. So we're going to pull the green in, keep it super loose back there. Don't let it get tight. It's better to have them be kind of dangly. And then go ahead and do your 1 green, and then continue on with your whites and do that all the way around. Hopefully, if the math works out right, it's going to be perfect. 2, 3. On the 4th one, I'm going to just pull it over, so we're basically just anchoring it to the wall so it's not hanging down. And then go back to your other 3. Switch to green. After this first row, this first setup row, it'll be easier to know where you're at because you're building off of this, so it'll be easier. But the first one, you just want to make sure that you've got all the number of stitches right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the green one. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you carry in that way. The reason you would want to do it this way, there's two different routes of doing it. I'm actually going to do it a different way because I like the look of it, it's cleaner. But the reason you'd want to do it this way is because you don't see any green in there. It's just green and white. It's nice and clean. It's messy on the inside. It'll actually look kind of cool when you're done with it. But on the outside, it's perfect. So on this one, that's how I did this one. So you see there's no gray. You can't see any gray in there at all because it's all hanging on the inside. And I'll show you what the inside looks like here real quick. And that's what the carries look like on the inside. So it's kind of messy looking, but if you look at it as a whole, it's actually kind of neat looking, really. But so that's when you're doing that drapey carry. If you do it the other way, I'm going to show you my second bag. The benefit is the clean look on the outside. So on my second bag, you can kind of tell, very little, but you can kind of tell that right here in this section, the gray is being carried in here, in behind it, all the way. So it kind of changes the color of this stripe. And I don't mind that. I think it looks kind of cool. And the benefit of it is that when you do it this way, the inside is cleaner. And you don't have like the long drapes. And also you have the benefit too of not having to count when you pull the carry in and stuff. You just carry it all the way across. So that's the way I'm gonna do it for this. The other benefit to this too is that when you're doing it this drapey way, we tend to, no matter how good you are at it, unless you're like really, really accomplished in this, you will at some point, see, you can tell that I was already doing it, you will start to pull it tighter just because it's just the nature of it. And when you pull it tighter like that, it makes everything kind of scrunch in. So in order to avoid that, I'm going to do a different type of carry on here, and I never have that problem when I do that. So I'm kind of giving up the cleanness so that I don't have it bunched in the middle. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to show you the other way to do it. Okay, so now we're going to do our carry a little differently. I'm going to let this little tail dangle over here. We're going to pull that white in, and we're going to leave the green behind it, and we're just going to go over the top of it. So usually when you crochet over the top of something, you usually have it up here on top and you crochet over the top of it. We're actually going to kind of let it lay to the back. If you have it on top, for sure you're going to see the green in between on the outside. But if you let it kind of hang out in the back, you might see a little bit of green, but it's going to be less noticeable. So I'll show you what I mean. We're going to go through here, and we're just going to let that hang in the, like right there over the hook, and then you're going to go over the top of it. And you're just going to carry it with you the whole way. So the other benefit of doing it this way is because if you were doing it on like a sweater, it's probably not a good idea because you kind of want it to be drapey, and doing it this way, you're basically like doubling up your yarn, which makes it a little bit thicker. But we're doing a basket bag kind of thing, and you want the sides to be nice and thick so they kind of stand up on their own. So having that extra little bit of bulk back there is not a big deal for this. Now, if you're doing a sweater or a hat, maybe it is a big deal. Maybe that's not the choice that you want to make, but for this, I think it works out great. So just keep doing that all the way across for your 7. See how if it ends up towards the front, you can kind of see that green. So you want to kind of just make sure that you keep it towards the back of it so it's not as noticeable. And even if it is noticeable, honestly, I don't mind it. I think it looks kind of cool. One, two, three, 4. What happens when I talk and try to count at the same time. It does take a little getting used to as far as how you're going to hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So on the last one, the 7th one, you're going to switch to green. Just pull it up. Leave the white down there, pull this up and pull it through, and then hold the white behind just like you did with the green. Do your 1 stitch with the white kind of in the background there. Go over the top of it, and then you're going to switch back to the white because you're just doing 1 stitch. And there's your 1 stitch in green. And then just keep doing that all the way around. So see how much cleaner that is in the back? It just kind of keeps everything together and you don't have to worry about it getting bunched. Okay, so go ahead and finish that row and I'll meet you right there. Okay, so here is our moment of truth. If I did the math right on this, I should have 3 stitches at the end. And, you know, like I'm not super scared because I counted before I started recording, so I knew it was okay. So you should have 7. It should just continue like normal. So we had 4 on this side, 3 on this side, comes out to 7. So we're going to finish this row. Oops, have this in the background here. And okay, so probably aren't going to need the stitch marker for quite some time because the tree is going to kind of dictate for us where our rows are. So now you're going to continue on, but we're starting on the second row of the tree. And in the second row, it's the same thing again, because it's just exactly the same. So go ahead and do your second row, and then I will meet you when we get to this third row right here and things start to change a little bit. Okay, so we've gone all the way around and we've done our two stem stitches, and we're ready to start the next one. So the next row is 3 stitches of white, which I've already done, and then we're going to go 1, 2, 3 right over the top of these 2 right here. So where there was once 1, now there's going to be 3 across. So you're going to pull in your green at the top of that one, carry the white behind, and just go 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to finish the third one with the white because we're switching back. And then you're going to go ahead and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get to the next tree. Okay, at the end of that one, we're going to switch to green, and then you're going to do your 3 stitches across the top of that stem, just like the last time, with the white carry in the back. Switch to white. And just keep doing that all the way around. And I hope you have the hang of it by now. So just follow the graph. If you need to put a stitch marker so you know when the beginning of the row is, you can, but what I tend to do is I tend to build off of the tree. So when I get back to this tree, I know that when I come back on the next round, when I'm on top of the tree, instead of 3, it's going to be 5. So I'm going to start over here, green, 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 and that'll be 5. So you'll just kind of get used to following the graph as you go around, and then go ahead and finish it all the way up here. I'll meet you here. I mean, really, I could probably meet you at the top of here because you probably have it by now, but I'll meet you here. We'll touch base. We'll do this, and then I'll show you how to do the top section of the bag, which is where this little tie goes right there, and then the top. It's not very hard. I think hopefully you guys will all get the bug just like I did, because I can see so many possibilities with this. I think the next thing I'm gonna make is a beanie, a Fair Isle beanie. I just have to find the right pattern. I have the yarn that I want to do it with. I just have to find the pattern that I want to do. So continue on. I will meet you at the top of the tree. Hey guys, so I just thought I would pop in here and check on you really quickly and make sure that you're feeling confident about what's going on here. This is what I consider to be probably the most complicated row of all of them, this one and this one. I already did that one. I'm on the second set of branches. So I just thought I would do it on camera so you can watch me do it. And hopefully that will help. Maybe you're not having any trouble at all and it's all clicking, and that's wonderful. I hope that's true. So we're ending that one. So the next one is going to be, you're just basically going 1 over from that. So 1, 2, and then it's going to be white, green, green, like that. So we're just going to go, oops, make sure you're carrying the white, green, green, switch to white, white, switch to green, green, whoops, switch to white, switch to green, and then green, green. So this one obviously has the most switches in it, other than, you know, your checkerboard down here. So I just wanted to make sure that you felt good about that. So I'm gonna do it one more time without talking. Oops. So when you first start it, there's 2, but then when you're doing them right next to each other and continue, there's only one white one in between. Oops. Okay. Ta-da. See how quickly that goes? Once you get a rhythm going and you get used to switching the yarn back and forth, it's actually pretty quick. And that's what the inside looks like. So everything's nice and neat, nothing's like hanging, and it's not pulling tight in the middle. You can see a little bit of green through there. Personally, I kind of like it. But if you don't like that green in there, you can do the carries that don't go in the yarn. They just kind of hang out here. So, okay, I'm gonna continue on and I will see you at the top of the tree. Check it out. Doesn't that just look so cute? Okay, so now we've gotten to the end of the tree. We're not gonna use this dark green anymore. So you can go ahead and just let that fall and trim it, give it a tail so you can weave in your ends later. And we're done with the dark green for now. So we're just gonna go ahead and do a round of plain white across the top, and then we're gonna go back into this. When you get done with your round of cream though, or white, take a moment to congratulate yourself, because look at what you just accomplished. If you've gotten this far, good job. Like, I know that it might have required maybe overcoming some anxiety. This looks intimidating, but if you've gotten this far, you know now that it's really not. It's actually quite, I wouldn't say easy, but it's definitely not as hard as it looks. And so I think that take a moment, take a picture, show it to a friend. If your friend isn't as excited for you as I am, then go to my Facebook group called Ginell's Quarantine Crochet and join us there, and then post a picture, and I promise everyone will cheer for you, because it's a big deal. It's a lot of fun. I also found something. So you've probably been seeing, as I've been letting you do your work, and I've been putting up on the screen a pause screen that has the graph on it. So in the past when I've done that, I've just put a picture of my drawing, but my sketch is just, it's just a rudimentary sketch. So I wanted something a little bit easier maybe to read or to see. So I found an app that's free that you can download, that you can create your own pixel art on, and it's super, super easy. And you basically just start off with a grid. You decide how big you want your grid to be, and then you just add the pixels that you want. So you can actually make your own graphs if you want to. So I'll show you what that is real quick. I'm not affiliated, I'm not getting any kind of kickback or anything, but it's called 8-Bit Painter. Oh, doorbusters end today. Get out there. That's for Joanne's. So you just go in and you just create a graph. So I just went in and it literally took me 5 minutes to draw that on there because you're just basically touching each square with whatever color you want. So 8-bit, what was it called? Sorry. It's called 8-Bit Painter. So look that up on Google Play and download it. It's free. I'm sure there's some ads or something. I don't know. I've only had it for like today, so I don't know what all the ins and outs are of it. But that was the easiest one I found. I've looked before, and all the ones that I found were just super complicated, like for people who want to actually draw and stuff. And I don't want to draw. I just want to put my little pixels down so that you can see it, and it's not just my messy sketch. So we're gonna go ahead and do 2 rows of white, I believe, or is it just one? Nope, just 1 row of white. And then once we get done with this one, we're gonna go right back into our blue, which you've already done before. So you probably don't even need to watch me do it. I can show you how to start it, and then I can just meet you at the top of that. Here we go. So we're gonna do, this is the final band. I'm just gonna get it started, and then I'll just meet you at the top of this band right here, and then I'll teach you how to do the rest, how you put in the little tie area and all that stuff. So just like before, we're gonna start with the blue. Gonna make sure, now did I do opposites? I did, nope, same, okay. Yep. Okay, so this is the one where we hop back and forth. So just kind of set yourself up for that. So white, and then blue. Okay, all done with the graphing. So now what I want you to do is I want you to get rid of this green here. So we're actually going to switch to white. And we're going to let that green just fall where it is, and we'll do the weaving in later. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to do 3 rows of plain white all the way up. So we're going to do something magical. You ready? Ta-da! Isn't that great? Too bad it doesn't always go like that, right? It doesn't go that fast normally. Okay, so next, now that we've completed that, we're going to chain up 1. And then in every one of these stitches, you're gonna do a treble crochet, or I call it a triple crochet. And it's basically just, you go through there, you pull up a loop, yarn over once, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. And you're gonna do that on every single one, all the way around, just for 1 row. And this is where we're going to weave in the cord to pull it tight at the top of the bag. Okay, so continue doing that all the way around. When you get to the end of this row, all you're gonna do is come over here, see where that top part of that treble crochet is. You're just gonna grab that and slip stitch into it. And it just kind of all flows together like that. So what we're gonna do is when we get to it is we're gonna weave in 2 and 2 all the way around. So it gives you plenty of space to do that. You can do it with the braided cord that I think I'm going to show you how to do, or you can do it with a ribbon. I tend to kind of hoard ribbons, and so every time I come across them, I just save them for a rainy day. So I have lots of them, but you can choose to use ribbon instead of using the yarn cord that I'm going to show you how to do if you want to. And you just basically, you would just weave it in 2 and 2, right? All the way around. And then just tie it in the front. I'm going to show you how to do the cord one though, because I think it just kind of blends better. Like, I think that's really cute. I love the sparkliness of it, but I don't know, it just doesn't like blend for me. So I think I'm gonna show you how to do the braided one instead. Okay, so now that you've finished this, we have some choices to make. So this is where you get to decide what you want to do with yours. My first one, which by the way ended up being almost exactly the same size. And here's why. I was like looking at it going, why are they the same? But notice that these stitches are so much bigger than these stitches, and that's because I used a G hook on this and an H hook on this. So that just shows you the difference between the two. I was learning on this one, and I wanted to keep it really tight so that you couldn't see the color. I actually don't mind the color showing through a little bit, but if you wanted to make it tighter, you can, and you can use a G hook to do that, or even smaller if you want, but it'll give you a smaller bag. And that's this one. I actually have less stitches on here, and it actually went faster than this one because I used an H hook. So that's the difference. So on here, what I did was I just did a simple 3 rows of plain white, and then I topped it. Is it 3? No, it's 4. I did 4 rows of plain white, and then I topped it with, this is a reverse single crochet, or also called the crab stitch. But I doubled up the yarn on this so that it would be nice and thick. This one, I did a little bit differently, use grammar. This looks like I did 3 rows on this, and then on the top, I wanted it to be a little bit more frilly. So I did 2 double crochets. Is that double crochets? Yeah. 2 double crochets in each stitch, just regular, not doing like the waistcoat stitch, but just the regular double crochets at the top of those stitches. And that increased it, which made it ruffle like that. And then I did the crab stitch on the top, but only with a single strand of yarn as opposed to a double. So like you can tell that this is a little bit thinner, this is thicker. So you can decide how you want to do this. I'm going to teach you how to do this one because I just like that ruffled edge on there. But if you want it to be a little more plain, you can just do it like that. One thing I do want to show you, just so that you can see it a little bit more closely, getting back into that waistcoat stitch after you've done treble crochets might be kind of hard to see. Just make sure that you're going into the top of the, instead of doing what you would normally do and go here, you're going to go into the top of that treble crochet, which can be kind of hard to see at first. But once you do the first row, it'll be right back to where you were. It'll be easy, she says, as she stumbles through it. So right here, this is the treble. The top of it is this loop right here. You're just going to go right through the middle, straight to the back. Pull it up and do your single crochet all the way around. And see, you go right back into that waistcoat stitch that looks like a knit stitch. And then do 3 rows of that, and I'll meet you at the end of that. Okay, here we go. We're going to start our ruffle. And to do that, all I'm gonna do is just chain up 1, and I'm gonna do in the regular space that you would normally do it, not into this space, the waistcoat stitch space, but in this regular gap here, you're gonna do 2 double crochets in the same space. And you're gonna do that all the way around. And it's gonna ruffle because you are increasing on every single space. So you're basically doubling the size of the ring that's going around it. And that's if you wanna do something frilly on top. You don't have to do that. You could do a totally different border on here if you want to. Something maybe lacier, or maybe something just plain. Every bag that you do can be different. Different graph, different topper, different ribbon, anything you want. I'm going to link to my Pinterest board, but I know that not everybody uses Pinterest or enjoys Pinterest. So I will try to, I'll either set up an album in the Facebook group that I can link to, or because it is a public group still, so, or a, yeah, public group. So anybody can see those links. So I may set that up so that'll make it easier for you. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that all the links to everything that you're gonna need for this will be in the description, including the links to the yarn, the links to the hooks, because I am an Amazon affiliate, so I will put that stuff there too. I would highly recommend buying, for some reason, Amazon's very expensive right now. And I think that if you have access to a local craft store like Michael's or Joann's, or we have Craft Warehouse here in Oregon. I don't know if you have that anywhere else. Hobby Lobby is kind of all over the country. If you have access to those things, I think that you'll probably be able to buy these things cheaper there, especially if you get in on a deal. But if you don't, if you are like in Canada and you are still in lockdown and you don't have access to those stores, you can order from Amazon. So I will put that link there. Just know that I'm putting it there, and it's going to be more expensive than what you'll find out in the world. But if that's all you have, then it's there for you. Okay, gosh, all that chatting and I'm almost done. So that's what it looks like. See how it kind of ruffles like that? Go ahead and meet me at the end of this row. Okay, so here is a little trick to make this blend a little better. See that jog right there? Instead of going in here and doing your 2 double crochets, I'm gonna do it into the stitch that this chain 2 came out of. And then I'm just gonna connect it right here. And then it just kind of makes it blend a little better right there. So here's your little ruffly top. So now what I did on this one is I did the same color, but I think I kind of like having a different color on top. I feel like it kind of tops it nicely. So what we're gonna do, I think, is I'm going to, here, whenever you change color, you want that last loop to always be in the new color. So I'm gonna pull this green back in, or this light color, light mint color. Just like that. We're gonna be done with the white. Yay, that means we're almost done. So you're gonna chain up 1. And then instead of going this way, like you normally would for your single crochet, we're gonna go backwards. And this, for some reason, a lot of people have a hard time with this stitch. I absolutely love this stitch. I use it to top most of my baskets, almost everything. It's just very simple, but it just gives a nice, like, finished look. And all you do is, instead of going forward and doing your single crochet, you're gonna go backward and do it. And it creates this little twist. See that twist right there? And then you just finish it off. Go into the next one. And we're just doing regular single crochets at this point. We're not doing waistcoat anymore. Finish it off. So you just like twist backwards, bring it up. There's a crisscross right there. You want that crisscross to be there. And then you yarn over and go through both of those and just go all the way around doing that. It makes this like just a nice little rolled edge. You probably, I mean, I could probably count how many times I have done this on my videos, because it really is my favorite finishing edge. Okay, so hopefully I did that on camera enough that you can see it. See how it's just nice and stiff. It makes this stand up straight. It's just, I love it. Okay, so I'm gonna continue all the way around. I'll meet you here. We're gonna finish it in kind of an odd way so that it looks continuous, so that we don't have an extra bump there. So meet me here and I'll show you how to finish it. Okay guys, so here we are, went all the way around. I ended up going into the stitch where I chained one out of, just so that it has just kind of a nice clean finish and it's not like gappy right there. So, and we're not, usually when you come to the end of something, you knot it and then you weave in your ends. We're not gonna knot it because it just kind of takes away from the continuity of that creation right there, that line. So we're just going to pull this. Don't worry, it's already kind of knotted because it's went through that little nub right there. So we're gonna pull that tight, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna weave this in the same direction that it was going. Usually when you weave something in, like at least for me, I always weave it the opposite direction and then back and forth. But we're gonna do it in the same direction because what it's gonna do is it's gonna make this continue on, so it won't be so easy to see like where your beginning and end was. So watch, kind of magically, it just sort of pulls it together and there you go. So it's like, where did you start it? It's kind of hard to tell. And that's what we want, right? We want it to be nice and smooth right there. So now you can go through and weave in your ends just like you normally would, which includes going back and forth, grab a little piece of yarn that's kind of hidden in here, go through it, and then go back the way you came. And then if you want to make it just a little more secure, do it one more time. Go in the other direction. Sorry, that was not super graceful. Okay, so grab just a little piece of yarn here and then go back this direction. That back and forth makes it nearly impossible to work itself out. Plus, this is not like a garment, so you don't even probably have to do that back and forth more than once. But because it's not gonna work itself out just out of use, because it's just really just for pretty, right? It's just gonna sit and look cute. So I'm gonna weave in my ends, and then when I come back on camera, I'm gonna show you how to make this little braided cord. It's so easy, you guys. And then there's lots of different cords. There's eye cords and all kinds of things. If you do a search for how to crochet a cord, there's a million of them. But this I found to be the easiest. This one I just braided 2 pieces together. This one I wanted it to be a little thicker, and I have each one of these little pieces, there's 9 pieces total of yarn, and I just did 3 of those. So this one's a little bit bigger, this one's a little bit smaller. I'm probably gonna do the smaller one for this bag because it's a smaller bag. And I'll show you how that is done in just a moment. Okay, so I pulled this out of the other bag just so that you could kind of see about how long this is, since they're ended up being about the same size. I just literally, I just eyeballed it, and you just pull the yarn to about where you'd like it to be. Braiding doesn't actually shrink it that much, but give it a little bit of extra space, just, you know, for a little bit of shrinkage, and then also for trimming your ends on there too. So I just kind of, I think I ended up doing basically like double what, yeah, like if you can wrap it around twice, you're probably fine. And for those of you who want an actual measurement, I can give you that. Seriously, my workspace looks like a yarn monster threw up on it. There's just yarn everywhere. So you probably want to, here, let me just measure this out for you so you kind of know where I'm at. So it looks like that's like 35. I would probably do maybe 38 just to kind of give yourself a little bit of space, maybe 38, and then that way you can trim whatever's extra on there. So what you want to do is you want 6 pieces that are about 38 inches long. Okay guys, so what you're going to do is you're going to start off by just making a knot. You've got your 6 strands together here. If you want a thicker one, go for 9 or whatever multiples of 3. And then I'm just going to do a little knot right here just to tie them together on the end. Okay, so you got your little knot. We'll trim that when we get to the end of it. So what I do is I grab like a little bowl clip or something, like a little office clip, and I'm going to connect it to something that is stationary. So it can be like the back of a chair or something that's got a little bit of weight to it. This one probably won't work because it doesn't have any weight to it. But basically all you're doing is you're just giving yourself something that you can have some tension against. I think the first one I just had my daughter hold it for me so that you can braid it without like having to hold both sides. So all you're gonna do is just gonna braid these pieces together. Hopefully you know how to do a braid. Oops, you might want to tighten that up a little bit at the top. You can always kind of like pull it to tighten it when you're done with it and make it nice and even. Okay, so just like that, untangle it every once in a while. And when you get to the end, you're just gonna knot the end. I'll see you there. Okay, so put your two knotted ends together here, and you're just gonna trim them so they match. However long you want it, you might just want little ones. There you go, just like that. And then you're gonna take this piece, find wherever you want the front to be. I mean, I think the only thing for me was that I just didn't want this. It's hard to see where the seam is unless you have a trained eye. Honestly, where is it? Yeah, I must be that darn good. It's gotta be here somewhere. Oh, there it is. The two greens together, that's how you can tell, or the two whites together. So the seams right here, I mean, I probably just would want to have that like in the back somewhere. And then find your center. You can make one of your trees the center. Go straight up. So you want your tie to be kind of like right here. And then you're just gonna go under two. You can do 1 and 1 if you want to. I just chose to do 2 and 2. And over 2. And just weave it back and forth. There you go. Pull it so that they kind of match. Pull it tight. And then just go ahead and make your little tie. Ta-da! Isn't that just so cute? I just love them. And they store nice and flat, just like that. So I'm gonna fill them with goodies and show you what they look like, all with their stuff in them and everything. But just wanted to let you know before we move on that you can come and join us on my Facebook group called Ginell's Quarantine Crochet. It's open to the public, totally like whatever. It doesn't, you don't even have to be approved to be in it. And then you can share your pictures of your progress and we will all cheer for you. It's a great group of people that are just like-minded and they just love to crochet and they love to help other people learn to crochet too. So it's a lot of fun there. And also be sure to subscribe if you like my videos. There are many, many, many to choose from now. I started doing this at the beginning of the pandemic to just kind of keep everybody sane or keep my friends sane, and it's grown from there. And there are quite a few videos on there now. So if you're looking for like Christmas ideas or gift ideas or whatever, I'm sure you'll find something in there. I haven't even finished this video yet, and I'm already thinking about the next graph that I'm gonna create. So once again, I will also link the app that I will link something about the app into the description as well. So just remember to check the description of the video. It has all the links to everything you could need, everything you need to create this project and so much more. And I hope that you've really enjoyed this video. I will see you next time.